Have you ever asked yourself this quiet but profound question? Why do friendships feel different now than they did when you were in your 30s or 40s? Not colder, not lonelier, simply different. For many people after the age of 70, something shifts quietly beneath the surface. What once felt like an essential part of being alive, building and maintaining a circle of friends, can begin to feel more like pressure than joy. And here is the surprising truth. After 70, you simply don't need friendships the way you once did. Now, before you dismiss that thought as too radical or too lonely, pause for a moment and truly reflect. Is your social life lifting you up or quietly weighing you down? Are the relationships you maintain today giving you energy, or are they draining it without you even noticing? After decades of caring, of showing up, of keeping up appearances, many seniors are discovering a beautiful and powerful realization. Real peace does not come from the crowd. It comes from clarity. Clarity about who you are, about who truly sees you, and most importantly, about who you no longer need to be. In this video, we will walk together through 6 powerful reasons why letting go of unnecessary friendships after 70 can be one of the most liberating, healing, and joyful decisions you ever make. But before we dive deep into these reflections, if you find meaning in these insights, if you feel the echoes of your own journey in these words, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. Your support is what allows us to keep creating content rooted in real-life elderly wisdom, senior health advice, and the timeless lessons that only life experience can teach. The first reason is simple yet transformative. You no longer need to prove yourself to anyone. Take George, for example. At 71, he did something he had never done before. He stopped calling people who never called him back. It wasn't anger, it wasn't bitterness, it was relief. In his earlier years, George was a successful executive, always surrounded by meetings, lunch appointments, handshakes, and endless social events. His phone never stopped buzzing, his calendar was full. But after he retired, something telling happened. The invitations stopped, the calls dried up, the so-called friends moved on. For a while, George kept reaching out, kept trying to resurrect old connections. But one day, staring at yet another unanswered message, he realized he had nothing left to prove. Not his success, not his charm, not his worth. He understood a deep truth. After 70, your value no longer comes from applause or attention. It comes from within. You've lived your performance years. You've built, you've given, you've shown up. Now your time belongs to you. Your peace belongs to you. Your validation rises from within you, not from how many people clap on the outside. This shift isn't selfish, it's sacred. And if you've noticed yourself no longer chasing connections that feel one-sided or hollow, don't feel guilty. Feel proud. What you are doing is reclaiming your most important relationship, the one with yourself. The second reason unfolds naturally from the first. After 70, peace becomes more valuable than constant socializing. There is a huge difference between being alone and being lonely. And by the age of 75, Martha finally understood that difference deep in her bones. Once the queen of holiday dinners and weekly brunches, Martha's phone used to buzz endlessly with calls, texts, invitations. She had people to message, parties to attend, calendars to manage. But somewhere along the way, the conversations became repetitive, the laughter felt forced, and the gatherings drained her rather than filled her. One afternoon, sitting quietly with a cooling cup of tea, Martha realized she didn't feel heard anymore. She felt scheduled. So she did something courageous. She started saying no. No to lunches that felt obligatory. No to conversations that sapped her spirit. No to the endless expectation to show up when her soul longed to stay still. And in those silences, something extraordinary returned. Peace. Not sadness, not isolation, but real peace. The kind of peace that wraps you in a warm embrace on quiet mornings. The kind that lets you sit by the window, watching the world pass by without feeling the need to. The kind that reminds you, this moment, this breath, this life is enough. Social pressure often shouts, stay active, stay connected, don't fade away. But inner wisdom whispers, stay centered, stay authentic, stay free. And if you find that your heart feels lighter when you cancel a plan, or your soul feels brighter when you choose a slow morning over a crowded room, trust that feeling. After 70, peace is not just a luxury, it's a form of protection. The third truth is equally freeing. Fewer friendships mean fewer disappointments. Not every friendship is built to last a lifetime. Some friendships are seasonal, some are situational, And some, if you are honest, were never truly about you to begin with. Thomas, now 79, learned this the hard way. He had considered Paul a lifelong friend. They met in their 20s, bonded over poker games, laughed through marriages, survived divorces. Yet as time passed, the calls from Paul became rare. And when they came, they were almost always about favors. Paul needed something, Thomas gave. Paul needed more, Thomas gave again. But one day after another ignored birthday, another lopsided conversation, Thomas sat quietly and whispered to himself, "I deserve better." And that whisper changed everything. Because here's the unspoken truth many seniors discover. The fewer people you keep in your life, the fewer bruises your heart collects. Friendship after 70 should not require endless explaining, defending, or forgiving. It should be easy. It should be mutual. If you're always reaching out, always adjusting, always carrying the weight, it's not really friendship. It's an obligation wearing a smile. Letting go doesn't have to be cruel. It can be gentle, quiet, full of gratitude for what once was. But it must be firm, because your heart deserves companions who walk beside you, not people you have to drag. The fourth and perhaps most beautiful reason is that after 70, your time becomes sacred. Elaine turned 80 last year and made a decision that transformed her entire life. She started protecting her time as if it were a treasure chest. She stopped answering every call out of politeness. She stopped sitting through hollow conversations just to be polite. She stopped wasting mornings scrolling meaningless messages out of habit, because after 70, time is no longer something you simply manage. It is something you honor. Each morning, each hour, each breath is a pearl strung along a delicate, irreplaceable thread. Elaine often says now, "If I spend an hour with you, it's because I truly want to, not because I feel I must." And the result? She is more alive than ever. She paints, she reads thick novels by the fire. She sings with the wind outside her window. Her life, no longer diluted by obligation, has become a masterpiece of intention. Time after 70 is no longer for rushing. It is for savoring. It is no longer about pleasing others. It is about honoring your soul. So if you ever wonder whether it's okay to cancel a plan that feels heavy, to spend a whole afternoon lost in your own beautiful company, to protect your energy fiercely, the answer is not only yes. It may be the most courageous, most self-respecting yes you ever say. For decades, Susan believed that being surrounded by people meant she was living well. Her calendar was full, her phone buzzed endlessly with invitations and check-ins, and everyone praised her for being so good at keeping in touch. Yet beneath all the interactions, something essential was missing. After turning 77, Susan began noticing a new kind of fatigue. Not in her body, but in her spirit. The calls became repetitive, the gatherings felt hollow, and she realized she was constantly adjusting, filtering her opinions, softening her words, changing her tone, just to keep everyone else comfortable. One crisp autumn morning, she made a quiet decision. She didn't announce it to anyone. She didn't craft a grand farewell. She simply chose stillness over effort. And something remarkable unfolded. For the first time in decades, Susan heard her own thoughts. Clearly. She sat with herself the way she used to sit with old friends. Curious, kind, unhurried. She took long walks without checking her phone. She read aloud to herself and laughed without needing an audience. She rediscovered the pure joy of being her own best companion. Many seniors are taught to fear solitude, as if silence must mean sadness. But here is a deeper truth. Real companionship isn't about who's around you, it's about who's within you. When you can sit quietly, feel peace settle in your bones, and know that your own presence is enough, you find a freedom that no gathering can replace. You no longer need validation. You no longer need to explain yourself or shrink yourself to fit into old molds. This is the part of life where you finally understand. Comfort doesn't come from being invited to every event. It comes from feeling at home in your own heart. And once you embrace that truth, your relationships shift. They become richer, not because you chase them, but because peace attracts those who respect your rhythm, your boundaries, your truth. James learned this lesson too. At 80, he stopped pretending. For years, he convinced himself that staying social meant staying young. He accepted every invitation, answered every call, and smiled through every lunch, even when the conversations left him drained. Deep down, he feared what would happen if he stopped showing up. Would he be forgotten? Would he fade away? But after one particularly tiring afternoon, another shallow lunch filled with complaints and empty chatter, James walked home slower than usual, weighed down by a heavy kind of sadness, and whispered, "I'm done." He let go not out of anger, but out of clarity. He released the guilt that had kept him trapped. He let go of friendships that had long ago turned into obligations. And in the space those old ties once occupied, something beautiful returned. Room to breathe, room to be, room to grow. He started tending to his tiny balcony garden, a hobby he had once loved but abandoned. He began journaling each morning, not about the past, but about how he wanted to feel today. He joined a local poetry circle, not because he needed more friends, but because he wanted to write. And to his surprise, real connections bloomed. Deeper, quieter, more natural than the ones he used to force. Letting go didn't mean shutting himself away from the world. It meant clearing the emotional clutter so joy could find him again. It meant realizing that fulfillment isn't something other people hand you. It's something you create every day with your choices, your boundaries, and your peace. And maybe you're wondering now, is it wrong to want fewer friends after 70? Does it make you antisocial? Are you giving up on life? The answer, dear one, is no. You are not giving up, you are evolving. You are stepping into a quieter, richer kind of wisdom. One that no longer chases applause or mistakes busyness for meaning. Because at this stage of life, happiness doesn't come from having a full social calendar. It comes from having a full heart. It comes from savoring mornings that belong only to you. From laughing at your own jokes. From feeling your own breath, your own steady, beautiful presence. If these reflections resonate with you, if you've ever sat in a crowded room and felt quietly disconnected, if you've ever found yourself craving the soft comfort of your own company more than any gathering, know this, you are not alone. You are not fading. You are awakening. You are shedding the noise, the obligations, the shallow connections, and returning to the richest friendship of all, the one you have with yourself. That is not a loss. It is a return. A return to yourself. A return to your truth. A return to what truly matters, peace, purpose, and presence. So if you feel yourself slowly releasing the need to maintain what no longer brings you joy, don't fear it, celebrate it. Because what you are doing is not selfish. It is brave, it is beautiful, and it is exactly what this season of life was always meant to be. Let's take a moment to truly reflect on everything we've uncovered so far. You have made it here because something inside you is ready to shift, ready to soften, to release, to honor the life you have so carefully built with the tenderness and respect it deserves. And as we step into the final part of this journey together, know that we are no longer merely speaking about stepping away from friendships. We are stepping into something far more powerful. The last two reasons you might not need friends after 70 aren't about loss at all. They are about liberation, about what you gain, not about what you leave behind. And as we walk through this final stretch, we will look closely at the emotional and spiritual roots of what it truly means to live fully and freely in your later years. Because this time right now is your time. When you reach this beautiful, hard-won season of life, the noise of the world begins to fade. And what remains is the pure essence of who you are. No titles, no performances, no roles to uphold. Just you standing quietly but powerfully in your own truth. And here's something few ever tell you. That is enough. You as you are, without the audience, without the applause, without the endless proving, that is enough. You have weathered storms that others cannot imagine. You have buried loved ones, celebrated milestones, carried burdens, and built a life with your own two hands and your indomitable spirit. And through all of it, one person has remained steadfast. You. Your voice, your values, your quiet strength. Evelyn at 80 used to dread Sundays. Her house was too quiet, her children were busy with lives of their own. The clock ticked too loudly, filling the empty rooms with a hollow ache. But one Sunday she tried something new. She sat down and wrote a letter, not to anyone else, but to herself. She wrote about the things she had survived, the things she had forgiven, the dreams she still carried. And when she finished, she cried not from loneliness, but from awe. I didn't know how much I liked myself, she whispered. That's the heart of it. The most enduring companionship you will ever know is the one you build with yourself. Once you stop needing others to fill your time, to validate your worth, to distract you from discomfort, you find freedom. Deep, quiet, grounded freedom. You begin to live with intention. You speak only when you mean it. You show up only when it matters. And you are never truly alone because you are deeply, profoundly present to yourself. That isn't just wisdom, that is power. And it's a gift only this precious stage of life can fully reveal. But what does it really mean to let go, not just of people, but of pressure, of the expectation that you must always explain yourself, Of the guilt that says you owe someone your time simply because of shared history? Of the fear that if you don't stay busy, you'll somehow fade away? Leonard, at 82, learned what freedom feels like. Not through a single dramatic event, but through a series of quiet, almost invisible decisions. He stopped replying to invitations that felt like obligations. He gently left a group he had belonged to for 3 decades. He turned down reunions he once would have attended out of guilt or habit, and instead he turned inward. He started gardening again, growing tomatoes, herbs, lilies. Each morning he would step outside with a steaming mug of coffee and watch the sun stretch across the sky, feeling its warmth not just on his skin but in his soul. He told no one, he posted no photos, it was just for him. One day his granddaughter asked, "Grandpa, aren't you lonely sometimes?" Leonard smiled warmly and said, "No, sweetheart, I'm full." That is the secret many never understand until later in life. Letting go isn't about bitterness. It isn't about walls. It's about space. Space to hear your own voice again. Space to breathe without apology. Space to live not for anyone's expectations, but for the deep, quiet joy that bubbles up when you choose yourself. When you stop trying to keep up, you realize there's nothing you were chasing after anyway. There is only now. And now is enough. Letting go doesn't mean closing doors forever. It means opening new ones. The kind that lead to peace, to creativity, to rest, to reflection. The kind that reminds you, life isn't winding down, it's deepening, it's becoming more yours than ever before. So let's return to where we began. You clicked on this video because something stirred inside you. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was quiet agreement. Maybe it was the hope that someone would finally say the thing you've been feeling for years. That you don't need to chase friendships to be whole. That after 70, life isn't about more people. It's about more meaning. Not more noise, but more depth. Not more gatherings, but more grounding. And if no one else has said it to you yet, let me say it clearly. With all the tenderness it deserves, it is okay to grow apart. It is okay to step away. It is okay to choose yourself. That isn't giving up. That is growing into who you are always meant to be. That is the quiet, luminous power of elderhood. So ask yourself, gently and without judgment, what am I still holding on to out of habit, not happiness? What might it feel like to finally set it down? Who might I become if I stopped performing and started simply being? The answer may surprise you, because in the stillness of solitude, you may not find loneliness, you may find clarity. In the quiet of your own company, you may not find emptiness, you may find expansion. In the peace of your own heart, you may not find fear, you may find freedom. If these reflections have touched something inside you, if they have helped you feel seen, understood, maybe even a little braver, please like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone else who may need these words too. Your voice matters, your story matters, and your presence here matters more than you know. Your later years are not a slow fading into invisibility. They are a rising and awakening into the life you are always meant to live. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible. You are not alone. You are powerful. You are present. You are still becoming, and the best chapters of your story may yet be waiting, just around the next quiet, beautiful bend. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing yourself. Thank you for continuing to rise,